share with us now a eulogy.
Well, it's really great to be here with all of you. My goodness, talk about a blast from the past. It's just awesome how God's people gather together to celebrate the graduation of one of the saints. And so that's what we're doing today. And as Pastor said, yes, it's a time of grieving because there's a loss, there's an empty spot there in our lives. But it is a time of rejoicing that we all long for. And God is faithful, and
Amen.
He will accomplish His work in each one of us until the day of Christ. So I'm all about history, and I'm about timelines and things like that. So when I was thinking about Aunt Ethel and her life and her legacy, I was thinking of her timeline and her place on the timeline of history, Christ, His story, and Jesus Christ was the focal point of all history, and each one of us have a place on that timeline, and that someday time is going to end and be no more, but God has given us this piece of time to live for Him. And so I'm going to start kind of at the beginning with Aunt Ethel's coming into time. And so you can do this little journey with me. Some of the things that I remember and some things that Barbie and Robin shared. And I hope it's going to be kind of a fun time as we look at Aunt Ethel's life. On September 3rd, 1927, Harold Luther Myers and Eliza May Reese were married in Hanover, Pennsylvania. Their first child, Roberta, was born in Greene, Iowa in 1928. Then on November 11, 1929, their second child was born, and they named her Ethel Lorraine. 6 months after Ethel was born, Roberta succumbed to whooping cough. But Ethel gained 2 siblings over the following few years, with her only brother Martin, born in 1931, and a sister Barbara, born in 1933. Life in the Myers household was very active. Harold and Eliza, in responding to the Lord's call in their lives, planted some 14 churches in the south central Pennsylvania region. The flagship church was in Gettysburg, which they founded in 1934. As the eldest child in the family now, Ethel took on increasing responsibilities due to the demands of full-time ministry that impacted both Harold and Eliza's day-to-day schedule. Ethel recounted how there was a proverbial revolving door at the parsonage, which was next to the church on West Middle Street. It was not unusual for people to be in and out, seeking prayer and counsel, as well as helping with the mundane chores associated with family life and children. Martin vividly remembers Ethel's leadership among the siblings, remarking that she was a stalwart protector and advocate for her younger siblings, especially when religious bullying frequently reared its ugly head back in those days against the thriving Foursquare Church, which was drawing many new converts here in Gettysburg. Martin and Ethel had a lot of fun memories of growing up in that parsonage too. Often, they went to bed early, being sent there, because of church-related meetings going on downstairs, counseling sessions, or visiting Foursquare dignitaries. But they remember huddling around the upstairs heating vent in the floor, trying to hear what was going on with the grown-ups downstairs. They also enjoyed running through the attic and had their favorite paths through the town on their way to the candy store or to school. In recent years, Martin and Ethel would talk on the phone, reminiscing about walking home from school together at lunchtime, because they didn't give lunch at school back in those days. Dad told me frequently lately about Aunt Ethel and her leadership. saying that she was my leader, sometimes saying she was my boss, and that she was like a mother to him as they grew up through their teen years. He laments how upset he was when Ethel went on to the high school and left him to fend for himself back at Lincoln School. Well, Ethel graduated from high school in 1948 and began to work at a canning factory, and that practice of taking on seasonal work continued even after she was married to make extra money for the Christmas season and things like that. But she and John Olson were married on December 2nd, 1949. Ethel met John as a youngster when his family started attending the Gettysburg Church. They fell in love and started their family in 1951 when their son, John Samuel, was born. In those early days, the Olsons shared a duplex house on Steinmore Avenue in Gettysburg with Ethel's brother Martin and John's sister Grace, or Frida. Both couples had their firstborn children at that time, which made Sam and Donna, Martin and Grace's firstborn, also born in 1951, the first of 7 Olson-Myers double cousins. So we always talk about being double cousins. In time, John and Ethel's family grew to include daughters Barbara Marie in 1956 and Robin Lorraine, born in 1965. Oops, what?
60. 1960.
Hey, you gotta get that right.
60. I'll have to talk to my secretary about that. We thought that was a big gap, but
She's older than I am, so you gotta get that right.
we'll blame it on Facebook, I guess, or something like that. You're fine with that? That can go into the official record? Okay. Well, life went speedily along as John built a house on Hanover Road at the edge of what years later became Lake Heritage. Those were great years for us as double cousins, as Aunt Ethel babysat my sister and me in the summers. I can still remember the smell of her famous peach cobbler. I also remember overindulging in it. Well, the babysitting didn't end with her niece and nephew, but was a hallmark of her heart to serve. With 8 grandchildren and 9 great-grands, Grandma had plenty of opportunities to invest in the rising generation of the Olson clan. And John knew she was up to it. As Barbie and Robin noted, John was famous for saying yes to babysitting requests, but Ethel would be the one to do it. Like the time when she suddenly found herself watching 3 little baby granddaughters, Jamie, Kelly, and Kristen, all at the same time. No doubt, every one of her grandchildren, nieces and nephews, and their children have benefited from the services of Grandma/Aunt Ethel. Now, children were not the only creatures that Ethel had to keep her eyes on. Uncle John was an avid hunter, and he raised beagles during much of their married life. The constant barking of the beagles was an irritation to Ethel. In fact, Barbie and Robin told me that their mother used to say, "The only good dog is a dead dog." Well, that is what she used to say, until little Dexter came along. Once, when Robin and Jeff went out to do some shopping and Barbie was staying with her mother, upon their return, Dexter started barking, and Barbie said to Ethel, "Oh, he sees Mommy and Daddy coming." To which Aunt Ethel exclaimed rather emphatically, "I'm his mom." Yes, she loved Dexter and he loved her.
Yep.
Ethel's caretaking prowess was not limited to children. She also ministered to her husband John as his health began to decline, caring for him until he went to be with the Lord in 1992. Later, Ethel's mom, Eliza, also known as Nanal, moved in with her at age 92 and was there until her own graduation to glory when she was 97 and a half years old. Well, eventually, Robin and Jeff, daughter and son-in-law, moved in with Ethel and helped support and care for her and the property in her remaining years. I remember how Nana would often say, It's no fun getting old. Well, that became a favorite response of Aunt Ethel too, when she was asked how she was doing. In fact, Martin often responds the same way, noting, Ethel always says, it's no fun getting old. So, enough on that. Barbie was sharing some of her impressions and memories of her mother with me the other day, and just started ticking off Christ-like character traits that she saw in her mother, stating that she was so very kind, tenacious, determined. Ethel liked things to be in order too, and wasn't a fan of change, as evidenced by the time when they got a dishwasher, at which she exclaimed, I'm the dishwasher, and then followed with her famous quip, it'll be chaos. Ethel loved Jesus. There's no doubt about that. She loved to worship him, singing and playing the piano, right up to a few days before her passage. One of her favorites, Power in the Blood, must have been instilled in her by her father, who would squeeze as many powers in that song as was humanly possible. Ethel was a great prayer warrior and a woman of faith. She would lay hands on people and claim healing, asking the Lord to make every whit whole in that good old-fashioned Foursquare way. Of course, it's impossible for us to fully recount a person's sojourn on this earth. But what we can do is remember the heart and soul of that person and the special moments that touched each of us, different for all, but memorable none the same. Ethel persevered to the end and is now in the presence of her Savior, who because of his grace, his sacrifice, and her faith in him, he now says, well done, thou good and faithful servant.